I'm still coming in with all my yelling, and I'm still coming in low. How is that possible? Okay, can you hold on? Wait a minute. Hold on. How about now?
Better.
Right. Better? Perfect.
Better.
Perfect. So, ladies and gentlemen, to the new group, welcome to the class. There's just a couple of more things. Number one, this ain't no politically class. Number two, I already cashed your check, so I could care less if you don't like it. I already got the money. I don't care whether you like it or not. No, there's no refund. Take it or leave it. Number three, this is a give and take class. And number four, I want to take Waji one more time. You know, he's so busy. He's 16 on Substack. Waji Lion, brilliant man, great posse. So I want to thank him for coming here and for being so gracious to invite me. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have domestic and foreign policy. I'm sorry, we got to start with foreign policy. So we had that lovely memorandum of understanding. Hey, you all, we got peace. Woohoo, we have peace. Can we shake our booty like we were dancing in Djibouti, right? Can we do this now? Woohoo. So what do we have here? According to the memorandum of understanding, I apologize for that. The Iranians and the US came up and said, we're going to, for 60 days, we are going to freeze all the, fighting. The Iranians going to open up the Strait of Hormuz. The ship's going to go through, right? So fine, hug, kiss. But what do you have here? Well, there's a man in the corner saying, oh, no, I do not want this, right? Mr. Netanyahu came in and says, oh, I don't want it. Well, the people were like, well, who cares? It isn't with you. It's about the U.S. and Iran. So what do you have here, ladies and gentlemen? I think it took about, 72 hours. Things began to break a little. And part of the memorandum of understanding was that, hey, open up the Strait of Hormuz. We're going to deconflict for 60 days. United States is going to remove the sanctions. And by the way, the Iranians are not going to charge a toll. Great. We're just going to charge a fee, but not a toll, because it's our territory. And part of that fee will go to Oman. Great. I think, like I said, after 72 hours, the United States was not happy. It temporarily broke, but the Iranians hit back. A few days ago, the United States hit Iran and Iranians hit back. Ba-boom, 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 ba-boom. But where they hit back, ladies and gentlemen, is a key. They hit Iraq, which is the Kurdish part of Iraq, obviously, where the United States has its people, along with Israel. They hit, ladies and gentlemen, last time was in Kuwait. They hit, if there's anything left of Bahrain. I mean, Bahrain is so gone, Google would not be able to find it. You know what I'm saying? It's just kaput, it's gone. And so the United States went back, the president came back, says, okay, it's back on. But people need to understand the reason the Iranians just hitting hard, and the reason the Iranians know we have no choice is because the Iranians and the rest of the world, and you class, the ones who've been with me for a long time, we knew the Iranians had won. We knew this was a military, economic, political war that we should have never gone into, right? We said in this class 6 months, we said a month ago prior to the attack, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. We said in the class how the spider web of our bases would be hit immediately. And without those bases, we would have nothing. And so military, to recap, that's what the Iranians did. They hit the bases to such an extent that the United States was just completely taken off by guard. They wiped out literally 35% of our entire TAD system within the first 2.5 weeks. So much so that we had to cannibalize our TAD system from Korea to bring it here, right? They hit the AWAC. They hit the almost 45 types. No matter what they did, the Iranians hit. And remember what we said. If you recall, I said prior to the war, they would use these lovely drones and these cheap missiles for $10,000, and we would have to hit them back with these $2 million missiles, right? Now, we are taking these drones. We are building these drones. There's no denying. But they have so much sucked up that the damage is so deep that we just can't catch up to a certain way. So from a military perspective, the Iranians are like, hit me, I'll knock you ass yesterday. But for the Iranians, as for everyone else, and we said in this class, Iran's objective, along with China and Russia, was what? An economic war of attrition. We said they dragged this in, they dragged this in, they dragged this in, right? And then boom, 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 boom. Economically. Why? Well, the US said it best. Inflation, hello. I mean, when your Folgers coffee, you all know it's my favorite, goes from 15 to 19 in Walmart, the end is near, right? You have the $39.5 trillion debt, and you have a war that is costing $1.5 billion a day, not 29 billion as the administration is saying, $1.5 billion a day. And you add all of that, you have the world economy going, we can't get anything out, 35% of the Strait of Hormuz, we can't get anything out. Gas prices are high because we're losing, there's no oil coming out. But worse than that, we, the great United States, we have these magnificent oil things. We're running out of gas because of our reserves are emptying out. So from the Iranian perspective, they're out of the negotiating table. They're like, listen, we don't want to go to war, but we're telling you, hey, if you come after us, we'll make sure you're so lost. Like I said, Google won't be able to find you. So knock it off. So the president is there. The president has no choice to sit down and negotiate with them. Does that mean we have lost? Well, it doesn't mean we have won. But the memorandum of understanding, and I think Raji said it yesterday, Besson is reviewing that, it's trying to delay, right? Delay to get more supplies for the United States, delay to get more action. Maybe. The problem with that is that the longer this war goes, the better for the Iranians. Not necessarily militarily, but economically. When a war is costing you $1.5 billion a day, when the world is telling you you are going to have a 1929 crash by mid-August, you've got no choice but to do something, right? So the president is going back and forth, back and forth. Part of it, as we know, it's because of the Israelis. Part of it, because of Lebanon, which we're going to get to momentarily. We are going to get to momentarily. But for this so-called memorandum of understanding, for me, it doesn't matter. You can fight, you can argue, the deal is done. We have lost this war the day we went in. So this is just a matter of time for us getting out. Eventually, we're going to get out. There's no other way. We may be in Israel, but we will never exercise, hi, Vicky, the economic, military, political power of the past in that region, because the entities that allowed us to be there, whether it's the different monarchies, whether it's our military bases, they're no longer there or they're ineffective. So as you have all of this memorandum of understanding going on, the world is getting pissed at the United States. The world is saying, do something, right? Not that necessarily pro-Iran. And you have all of these in Lebanon going. You have the Israelis hitting Lebanon. You have the Israelis attacking Gaza, which is against, obviously, the peace agreement they had. So the world is watching by, right? Just sitting there going, really? I mean, this is all you got to do? And the Iranians going, yeah, you know what? Come after me. Because remember, ladies and gentlemen, a war is military, it's economic, and it's political. And the fact that United States and Israel are, whether we agree or just disagree, doesn't matter, generally are seen as significantly the guilty party here. Not that the Iranians are an angel of mercy. Nadine, the phone is this way. Not that they're their angel of mercy. The fact that they are seeing that way, the Iranians and their allies, particularly China and Russia, they don't have to do anything. They could just sit there and say, okay, go right ahead. Go right ahead, right? And so for me, when I look at this, back and forth dancing, means nothing. To me, the Iranians and the Americans, they're going to fight, they're going to argue, I'm going to hit you, you're going to hit me. They're going to do all of that, but at the end, they're going to have that contract signed. Both of them they have no other choice. Neither of them have any other choice. So before I go to Lebanon, I'm going to throw it back into the class. Go right ahead. Stephen, you're so dark in there. Okay, comments. I would ask Brian, and Brian never says nothing. So, you have a comment, Brian? I'm shocked. Do you?
I talk when I think it's appropriate. I'll ask you a question.
Well, you could have any opinion you want, but I'm just saying.
we're focusing on international right now,
Of course.
but I'm curious as to your thoughts of how the recent wins of the Democratic Socialist Party in the U.S. May have been affected by this war and Americans' feelings about Israel and how the Democratic Socialist Party addresses those issues.
Right. So before I go there, I could throw that back in. It's okay. Let me put it this way. First of all, New York is not the rest of the country. I just want to make that clear. I don't see that in Texas. I mean, if you see this in Texas, the end is near. Okay. I mean, this is New York. So I think, however, at the same time, I want to make something clear. I think what happened in New York is what we've been saying in this class. Yes, Vicky, you're next. I see everyone. We have been saying it a long time. There's a difference between Judaism and Zionism. The ones who voted for these individuals were saying, we are not Zionists, we are Judaic people of the book, and these people don't represent us. So for me, that was a signal. And I think it was an important win because those individuals are saying, look, don't blame the entire faith on what these Zionists are doing. It has nothing to do with Judaism. It's very much where the Muslims went to. When the Muslims were going, wait a minute, these Islamist terrorists has nothing to do with us. So it is important. And I think it's not just a war. It's not just the invasion of Iran, but the Palestinian conflict for 2 years, the videos coming out, the news coming out. Remember, the news is no longer controlled. Social media is the greatest form of democratic system. So you have all of this going, but I am sure it had a massive, massive impact. But then again, it is not Texas. I mean, I don't see a socialist winning in Mississippi, or no offense, Alabama. If you know what I'm saying. Hold on, Vicky. Yes.
Okay, so just a quick question. I'm sorry I came late.
Yeah,
So
okay.
I think what's interesting also is that I think this war is no longer should be called the war of Iran on Iran. It should be called the war of Hormuz because
Yeah.
it has
You're
everything
right.
to do with Hormuz. And I think your point regarding the world or America, et cetera, getting angry about this war. I mean, you know as well as I do, the minute you escape from America and you go to any other country, they are all looking at us regarding this war as what in the world are you doing? Who is it benefiting, et cetera, because this war has affected, whether we liked it or not, every single country on this planet. Think about that.
Yeah.
And I think that the one comment I'd like to make is going back to, I think it was Jeffrey, I can't remember who said it. You talk about Mississippi and Texas and Alabama and everything, but and you made this point many times, when you don't have the funds to buy food, it doesn't matter where you are living, you will pay repercussions for this. And
That's true too. That's true.
Remember, Texas is big, but the big cities are Dallas, Houston, and Austin.
Yeah.
And Houston and Austin are very liberal. Thank you.
You have an excellent point. You have an excellent point. But we were specifically talking about the socialists because the candidates in there aren't socialists, but they're left. They're democratic. But you have an excellent point. At the end of the day, we said before, when it comes to the election of November, where is the economy in September and October? If you can't pay your bills, if you can't pay your rent, remember, you guys are come from a certain background, my traditional class. You are top that 10%. You come from a certain intellectual or work experience, for the lack of a better term. The average American cannot afford that. Look, the economy is not doing that well. For most people, electricity has gone up, food has gone. Look at the food banks. The guy was saying, I was watching the food bank gentleman, he was doing an interview, and he said, we are 300% more now for people receiving food from our food banks. And they all work. It's not like they're not working. They all work, but they just can't make. When you used to pay, a tomato, 90 cents, I'm just making a point, 90 cents a pound in Aldi, and now you're paying $1.29. You're like, well, wait a minute. Or, the sodas have gone up or the food has gone up. The average American, and Vicky has an excellent point. It's going to be the economy. And by the way, the Iranians know that. That's what I said. It was a war of an economic attrition. The Iranians know that it is a war of economic attrition. Before I go back to foreign policy, Ralph, go ahead. What the
No,
heck?
I'm going to go back to foreign policy. To
Yeah,
me,
okay.
I don't know how anybody could trust anything that Iran says, even if they sign the agreement. You
Mhm.
know that they're not going to keep their word. I don't think
Who
there's
said
one
that?
person.
Why? Why? Who said that? It's the U.S. has broken the word, Ralph. It's not the Iranians.
You think Iran hasn't broken their word?
When? Throw me a bone, Ralph. When?
The drones, they hit the ship, they hit Bahrain, they hit.
But they're at war. They didn't have that. Ralph, baby, you hit the country. They're going to kick your ass.
It's supposed to be unilaterally done. And it's
No,
not.
no, no. We attacked them and they kicked our ass. They took part of the 14 memorandum. Don't go to Lebanon. We did. Don't stop our ships. We did. Open the banks. We didn't. So they're like, I'm going to take a piece of it. It's Ralph. I love you, but it's us that the world doesn't trust. What we have, it's us. We broke the 2018 the agreement with Iran. That was a smart one. We are the ones who lied to the Iranians. Says we're not going to kill you. We assassinated the negotiating team while they were still negotiating, Ralph. They have more respect for Iran, whether you like it or not. And the world isn't just the West. The world, again, 2/3 is the global South, and 1/3 or so is the Western-led world, whose own population now are going, what are you doing? What are you doing? So this is not taking side. At the end of the day, Ralph,
Yeah.
here's the key. With all due respect, we don't, as my brother says, my younger brother, Michael, I love, oh my God, my kids call him world's best attorney / uncle, Michael Riot, he always does that. We don't have a pot to piss in. Excuse my language. We got nothing. We can't win militarily, Ralph. If we could have won militarily, we wouldn't be sitting here, not with Donald Trump. Let's be honest. If we could have won militarily, we wouldn't have been here. We would not have been here. However, we cannot win economically. Their intention is to drag and drag and drag and drag. That's what I said. If you recall, for those who are taking my class, don't assassinate the Khamenei. Don't attack the boards. Don't go in. What did we do? All three. Hello, we're here. Meanwhile, 60 of us are mugging a lady for, what I'm saying, for a piece of cheese because it's gone up. Any question coming from the new people? Nothing. Where's Max?
Maybe Nadine. Maybe Max is with Nadine.
Oh, no, Max is here. Max is here. Any questions before I go on? There you go, Max. So my point is, but the memorandum of understanding is there. Now, but remember, the memorandum of understanding has to do with Lebanon. What happened with Lebanon yesterday? Right? 2 days ago. The Lebanese government came in, and I hope Wajid would throw in his word in here. If he would make a comment, I would appreciate it. Came in, signed a contract with the Israeli government. The problem with the contract is like 90% of the Lebanese people are against it, because according to the contract, the Lebanese will have to give up literally their sovereignty. They gave up the right to, to put crimes against humanity. Well, all of that aside, it lasted, I think, what?
Technically, it would be 60 to 70% mathematically.
Yes. Yeah, go ahead.
But you have Lebanon is divided into three major factions: Sunni, Shi'i, and Christians. We're talking about Coptic Christians that have been there for thousands of years. 2,000 years, basically. The reality is that the Sunnis and the Shi'is are united. The 10% of the other minority is off and on, depending on who you ask.
Max, put yourself on the mute.
So when you are looking at the situation in Lebanon, the Sunnis and Shi'is plus another 10%, so that's about 70% of roughly 70% of the Lebanese people do not agree with the MOU that Lebanon has signed with this Israel. And today's Warcast on my podcast, I said that if you compare the U.S. Israel, U.S. American MOU versus the Lebanese Israeli MOU, you'll notice a difference between night and day. The reason for that is when the Iranians negotiated, they negotiated for the best interests of Iran. The people that went to negotiate on behalf of Lebanon were Christians who are already allied with Israel, that had their own militias and tried to create their own Christian nation in the past, called Free Lebanon. So Free Lebanon military militias was directly funded by Israel. So the relations between the Israelis and the Christians and Lebanon are already amazing. So asking a group that doesn't represent the Muslim factions that the Israelis are having conflict with, the Israelis doesn't have a problem militarily or politically majorly with the Christians of Lebanon. They have a problem with Hezbollah. And okay, they have a problem with Hezbollah, then you're supposed to sit down and have talks with Hezbollah. You're not supposed to sit down and have talks with the Christians. How is that beneficial? So when the Christians sat down and made a deal, there is several things that I would call it the dark side of the Lebanese deal. Main thing about it is Lebanon gave up its right to ask the International Criminal Court to investigate any human rights violations or wars, crimes against humanity, or war crimes. And they gave up the right of allowing Israel to continue to occupy a good part of the southern Lebanon. So taking these things into fact, you look at the two and you're like, what happened here? This is really different. You can tell that the people that negotiated on behalf of Lebanon really didn't care what they ended up with. They just wanted to end this war,
right,
regardless of what they gave up.
Well, if I could just stop for a minute, you're absolutely correct. The thing with that was that it was already broken because the Israelis already attacked Lebanon. But for me, what was fascinating, I am surprised the Israelis would even do such a strategy. I thought they would be a little bit smarter, because what happened was the Israelis now united the Shiites and the Sunnis against this plan. Furthermore, remember, we discussed it before. Furthermore, as you said before, if you look at the map of Israel, you have border with Jordan, you have border with Syria, you have border with Lebanon. All of these groups, all of the roads that the U.S. used to, for example, to overthrow Assad or to create problem in Lebanon, all of those roads are used now with the same rebels, but to fight Israel and to unite with Iran and with Hezbollah, to the point that if you look at the map, if you have Israel, you have Syria, you have, Lebanon, you have all these different rebels and different ethnic and different tribal system getting closer to the border, in which, if, like for example, in the case of Syria, when Israel goes in, they're going to use that roads, various roads that was used in the past, to attack Israel, to the point that Israel now, it's not saying, to the point that Israel is saying, well, I'm in Lebanon, I'm in Syria. No, you're in Lebanon and you're in Syria, but trying to get out because now you're surrounded. Now they unified all the entities that they had divided before. Now they unified all those entities. And if I may, it's not all of the Christians, because there were some Christians who said, what the F is this, right? But what was so important for me was the price, $100 million. I mean, how cheap, if you're going to sell yourself, for God's sake, get more money. You know what I'm saying? It's like this gorgeous, if you're going to be some two-bit floozy, you know what I'm saying? Get out as much as jewels you can before you're, saying no, thank you. So, for the lack of a better term, but you're absolutely correct. So that is out, and that became a political rallying cry for the Sunnis to help Iran, because Iran yesterday said we made it very clear we will never abandon not just Hezbollah, we will never abandon Lebanon. So now all those groups, you have Sunni groups working with Hezbollah saying, okay, there's a new system, these people got to go. And so for me, it's already broken. They were bombing yesterday. Hezbollah is going to hit back. For me, this was ironically it is stupid strategic mistake by Israel. And I'm curious to see how they're going to get out of it. I'm really interested to see, because this is just the beginning. Remember, Israel has already lost this war politically in particular. So when I looked at that and I'm like, wait a minute, who would give the idea of signing this? You would just have the Christians there, not all of the Christians. Where's it? So it was fascinating to me. But when it comes to the memorandum of understanding, it is not going to change a damn thing per se. This war, ladies and gentlemen, and we said in this class before, the war between Iran and the United States may be separate, but the war between Iran and Israel will not end until there's a clear victor. And we also said not once, not twice, not 100 times. For years, we're saying that. For Israel, the problem is not going to be economic, because eventually economics is going to come up. It's just the way it is. Militarily, you rebuild. It's your internal problem. Israel is facing its greatest social crisis since the split of the kingdom post-Solomon. We have been saying this for years. The Israelis need to decide, what are they? Are they these radical Zionists who are showing up, videotaping themselves of doing certain crimes against humanity and gloating? Or are they saying, wait a minute, this isn't us, like those who won in New York? We disagree with the Muslims, we disagree with the Christians, but this is not us. And I think once this war settles down, and eventually it's going to settle down, the war eventually ends, no matter where you go. I think that is when the internal crisis for Israel will truly begin. It is then when the Israelis will have to decide, what are we? Who the hell are we? And who started this war? Who did this war? And it is then that Israel will find its problems. Because right now you could say we're united, we were attacked, we attacked you, you attacked, whatever. I don't care. It is then. And I am not sure the Israeli society, we're not talking about you guys in Miami, we're not talking about that. Internal Israeli society is ready for what is coming, because they thought they could destroy. They went after Gaza, it was easy. They did nothing that would be that badly damaged by the Iranians. They are being significantly damaged by Hezbollah. So, not that they're not doing their own kicking. They're also kicking ass. Let me make that very clear. But they didn't expect that. So I think if I were, in the Knesset, like tomorrow, I'm sure, right before the president sells me to El Salvador, there you go. Right tomorrow, I think they need to pull back and decide. I think the Israeli society is headed for some interesting, challenging times. Significantly challenging times. Significantly. Vicky, wait a minute. Edith, you have your hand up, or are you doing this? You have your hand up?
Yes.
Hold on, Vicky. Edith, you have your hand up? Were you doing this, or you have your hand up? Where should go? Oh, you have your hand up. Okay. But you have to talk. You're on mute. No, unmute, Nadine. Did you unmute it? Hold on, let me see. Unmute. Unmute. Okay, Vicky, you ask until she unmutes. Vicky, you go ahead until she unmutes.
I just have a question for the class, and maybe to the speaker you had before. I don't know.
Baji.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My question, I guess, is why, if the world is so against what is happening with Gaza, with Lebanon, etc., and I mean the world, I'm not talking about just the U.S. or whatever, but because we see and we hear all the time about the outrage and everything. Why still today are we unable to stop this? What do you want to call it? Genocide? You want to call whatever you want to call it? Why are we unable to stop it? Because it seems to me that wherever I go, the world is absolutely 150% against what's happening, regardless of Hezbollah, regardless of, yes, we can all say, yes, they're targeting Hezbollah, et cetera. But let's be honest, you don't target Hezbollah by killing children and mothers and blah, blah, blah. So my
The
question, I
answer is
guess, is,
simple.
I beg your pardon?
The answer is simple. The solution is not in the hands of the world. The solution is in the hands of the Israeli people. The protest
But wait
that
a minute.
happens across
But
the
wait, let me
the pro-
wait. Let me just finish my thought, and then I give it to you. Just let me finish, because
Sorry.
you're saying now, you're saying that the if the world itself is against this, you're saying that the only way to resolve this is with the Israeli people. I mean, the
Yes.
Israeli people make up a very small percentage of the world. Why
Yes.
is the world not stepping in? Okay, I'll let you take it.
No worries. It makes sense of why you would have that question. When the United States went to war with Iraq, the world couldn't stop it. When the United States went to war with Afghanistan, the world couldn't stop it. When the United States went to war with Vietnam, the world couldn't stop it. The reality is this final decision is in the hands of the people that live in that country. We can put pressure. We can put pressure. We can have influence. We can have sanctions. But if the Israeli people do not choose people who want to de-escalate, then Israel decision makers are not going to de-escalate. The reality of the situation, people in Israel are disappointed in Ben Gvir. Ben Gvir, the national security advisor, and they're disappointed because he's not more far-right extremist than they want him to be. That's the same guy that said, took all the flotilla people and tied them up and made a video making fun of them. And he
Yeah, but
openly
Waji,
talked about raping Palestinians
yeah, but
and on and on
Waji,
and on.
Waji, listen, hold on a minute. Wait a minute. Waji, you're saying, sorry, I take you back. You're saying that the world stood by when America invaded Afghanistan. The world stood by when Russia invaded Afghanistan. The world stood by when America invaded Vietnam or whatever. But this is something different because it is involving the entire world. Afghanistan, at that time, nobody was involved in that. It was a different outcome. It was different. Anyway, what I'm trying to say right now is that, and Mitra is right, because now we have social media and every Tom, Dick, and Harry can see exactly what's happening, where perhaps in Afghanistan and Vietnam, etc., we were relying on reporters taking videos, taking reels and this and that. So my question to you is, it has nothing to do with Ben Gvir. It has nothing to do with this. There is something else at play here.
Can I tell you? Can I add that?
Okay,
And I tell you why.
Take it.
I'm going to tell you why. But Waji is absolutely correct. But I'm going to add one more to that. If you look at the Asiatic Islamic world, if you look at it, we said the shift is going from Arab to Asiatic, whether it's PIC, which is Pakistan, Iran, China, whether it's TIM, Turkey, Iran, and Malaysia. The majority of them are looking at this and they're helping the Iranians. They're providing money, they're providing support to do the job. But there is also, honestly, certainly from certain parts of global South, is that this is the mess United States created. Let him create, and they want us to crash. They bitch and moan and groan, but at the same time, what they're doing is, hey, you're in this mess, you get out. So what do? They keep their mouth shut for a price, and I don't mean price, I mean they say, in the Indonesia, we don't want you to tell to Iranians, we don't want to sell that. But Indonesia will say, well, if you want my support, I'm going to do what I need to do. They do that. So it's not just because of what he said. It's not just what it's also added to that by saying, hold a moment, you are in this mess. And if I could just add one more to it, there is, people assume the world can do something. They are doing something. But I think what I just tried to say is that internally, only the Israeli people could stop Netanyahu. That's it.
right.
That is what I'm saying. It can't be us here listening to the president of the United States. That's up to the Israeli people. And I think, and I will say this again, when this war ends, right now, you guys, forget about you, Vicky, forget about Raji, it's different. Generally, if you're under the age of 55, you're on social media. If you're over the age of 55, 60, you're still on Fox, CNN. They still haven't seen everything. Wait till it comes up. That's the problem. What happened to Edith? So yeah, Edith, where'd she go?
He's with Nadine.
Oh, okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. No, my screen is going like this. Is there something? Okay.
But let me answer the question.
You mean Vicky? Yeah.
The thing about the Israelis hold the solution is that there are different tools used for different things. When the world protests and asks their own governments to take action against Israel, we have to stop and ask ourselves, what kind of actions does each government actually can do to enforce Israel to change its own strategies? If you think about it, most of them are going to be like, oh, I don't know, diplomatically this, diplomatically that. We can do sanction this person, sanction. They won't even sanction Israel as a whole country. They would sanction individuals like Ben Gavir, like Netanyahu. They would not go after the whole country. So when you look at it, Israelis are not really feeling the pressure from the rest of the world as much as you would like them to in order for them to make a difference. And in fact, there seems to be there is a big number of those Israelis who want the Israeli government to take an even harder line than what they already have. So because of that, I'm coming to the conclusion that by the end of the day, if the Israeli people didn't come down to the street and vote for a moderate person who's looking to de-escalate and come down to the table and negotiate a peace agreement, we're not going to get there. You also have to understand where Netanyahu came from. Netanyahu, when the Anwar al-Sadat was the president of Egypt, was signing the agreement in Washington, D.C. with Clinton. No, not with Clinton. Was signing the agreement, I forgot where. With Carter.
Yeah, you're talking about 1980.
The Netanyahu was out in the street calling the Israeli prime minister at the time as a Hitler for wanting to sign a peace deal with the Egyptians and end the conflict. By the end, the Israeli prime minister came back to Israel and he was assassinated by far-right extremists aligned with Netanyahu. Netanyahu is not interested in a peace deal. Ben Gavir is not interested in a peace deal. Therefore, and it seems like the only reason they're staying in war is because that would prevent the Israeli courts from arresting him or from taking him and taking him to court for his corruption lawsuits. So he already has corruption lawsuits, and he's avoiding those court orders by staying in power.
That's the only reason.
I can agree with you. I can agree with you on that.
Good. Let me ask Edith, where did she go? Where did she go? She had her hands up, and then we have Pia and we have Karen. Where did she go? Edith, are you there?
They're muted again.
Oh, for God's sake. Is she there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here, Mitra. Mitra,
Over
it's
here,
always-
over here, over here.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
There you go.
Turn my face. You
You
got it? Okay. We spend, and I understand why, a disproportionate amount of time talking about what's going on in
You got to
Iran.
move on.
There is another war going on, and it happens to be Russia and Ukraine. And
Oh, yes.
given the economics are disproportionate with Iran because it does impact the world,
Yes.
but Ukraine impacts Western Europe. Yet the world
Absolutely.
gives very little attention to it. So this is for Victoria. Maybe it's more about eradicating a country. And truly, as you say, it's over. It's over for Israel. Maybe it's more about that because there was nothing more egregious, honestly, than what Russia did that morning when we woke up and read about it. Yet the world doesn't care because it doesn't impact them.
No, I disagree with that. I disagree with that.
Okay.
I disagree because, first of all, we all know, and Victoria is going to disagree with me, but she's going to disagree with me because she's Greek. Heaven forbid the Greeks should say the Persians are superior. I mean, I think Alexander would turn it over his grave. She's just going to disagree with me. She's Greek. And I respect that. I respect that. Partially because when I go to Greece, I'm staying with her for free. So I want to throw that in just thinking. I'm not giving up free hotel. But I disagree with that actually because we know the Russians were pushed. But but it's not because the Russians. For 2 years, it was Russia and Ukraine. We turned. Mr. Zelensky was a corrupt dictator who abolished all opposition, declared martial law, imprisoned anyone who disagreed with him, is one of the most corrupt individuals there is, and has been on U.S. payroll for years. So I disagree with that. And I also disagree with the fact that the people forgot. They haven't. It is just as for 2 years, it was Ukraine. And then all the truth came out. He abolished the opposition. He declared martial law. He was shooting anybody that disagreed with him. And I hate to tell you, and I hate to be blunt, but there is a limit on how far the world will see a war. Ukraine, passe. Now you've got this. So unfortunately, that's the way it is. I remember I was watching 1988 with the Afghan thing.
Look what's going on in Sudan. No one
Right,
gives a shit.
exactly.
No one
Look
cares
at-
about Sudan either.
But excuse me, with all due respect to Sudan, if we all gonna lie to ourselves, let's pretend, okay? What color are Sudanese people?
Yeah, but
Not
Mitra,
white.
may I come in for a
They
second,
ain't no
Mitra?
white, blonde hair. Last
Mitra,
one that
can
I
I-
heard, yeah,
May
sure.
I come in for 1 second?
Where is she?
So
Funny. I'd like to
yes,
be
you're
there too.
absolutely right that Mitra and I disagree about Russia and Ukraine, and but
she's wrong.
I think that the lady who commented about caring about Russia and Ukraine
Enid,
is
yeah.
not Edith, you're not looking at what the Europeans are doing day in and day out regarding this continuous war that's been going on for 5 years now.
They're bankrolling. They're bankrolling a lot.
But it's not just the banks, Mitra. It's not just the banks. It's because we agree
Military,
on
yeah,
certain things. But I think the problem really is with Russia and Ukraine is Mitra is absolutely right. You reach a point in your life where you need to turn the page because every day you're going to end up committing suicide with all this shit going on. We have enough troubles here in America that we can't put our concentration on Russia, Ukraine. And the other lady who said about Sudan, well, let me just tell you about Yemen because I've been following Yemen more than Sudan.
Yeah,
And the thing that's been going on in Yemen is just, in my opinion,
insane.
is the inhumanity of Yemen is crazy. But I think that going back to the points of everybody, I think to wrap this up, I think we can talk about all the different wars that are going on. We can talk about why these wars exist, who started what, why is it going on, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. My question is, I guess, to the group is how does the world get out of this? And I'm going to say World Cup. I'm going to say World Cup, but that's beside the point. No, I think how. Okay, I leave it to the group.
Okay, hold a moment. Pia has her hand up, and then Karen has her hand up. So let's go to Pia, then we're Karen, and then you have to go to domestic, ladies and gentlemen. It's very important. Go ahead, Miss Pia.
There's always been at war somewhere.
So is it me now?
Pia, are you there? Where'd she go? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. There you are.
Okay. I live in Sweden. I'm Swedish, Danish, and we deeply care about both Ukraine and the war in Israel, Gaza now. My question is, why does the US continuously fund Israel with weapons and money at the extent that you do?
Wow, that's oh my Lord. Well, there's a number. You can say because we consider an ally, the power of the Israeli influence. You can say, I mean, the list is long. I'm going to throw this one at Edith. Where did she go? Where did she go?
I don't think, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. You just said the video was like this.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I'm not the spokesperson for this, but for a very long time, for a long time, Israel has been an ally of the United States. Okay. It is, whether it means anything or not, it is the only democracy in that region. And I would just say, and I respectfully appreciate the woman, I think she's from Pia from Norway. Sweden. Okay. I think that our friends, and I still call them allies and friends in Western Europe, if they haven't realized after 1,000 years of war and the terrorist activities undergone by Iran for the past 50, 60, 70 years, I can't understand. Again, don't like Israel. I could care less about that. But why choose Iran to support? They want every single Western country or Western value demolished. They're about creating an Islamic world.
That's BS. Edith, that's such a crap. That's BS, Edith. That is, I love you, but that's BS. I love you, and my mother's going to kill me if I say that to you. So don't go tell, I hope she ain't watching this. Please don't say my mother loves her. My mother's like, I can't believe you spoke to her. She's going to kill me. First of all, that's BS.
I also have another point.
Mitra, which part? I want to hear you.
I will tell you right now. First of all, you said for 70 years. Are you kidding? So you're talking about the Islamic government for the past 47 years. But the Iranians are not anti-Europe. They were telling Europeans, you're coming after us. Are they a good government? Absolutely not. The difference now is we are saying, thanks to social media, neither are the Israelis, neither are hold a moment, neither are the people who pretend to be. This isn't about Iran being a good country or US being a bad country. This is about those who preach morality, who got to have carte blanche in the region. All of a sudden, all this social crap comes out, and you say, even though the global South knew, they're not a democracy, they abuse their power, they push for the coups. So it has nothing to do with being pro-Iran or pro-Israel. It has to do with the fact who is the guilty party and what is right. The Iranians didn't go after the Israelis, they came after them. Are they a perfect country? Hell no. Is the government, is a moral government? No. But neither are the Israelis. In many ways, for us, for many Europeans, they look at us, we're not there. But you cannot come and say they're against Western values. I've got news for you. Perhaps the Western values doesn't say you rape people in prison. That is not what they're saying, but the Israelis said it was wrong. They're doing it themselves. So they're doing things worse. What I'm trying to tell you, it's not about the government being good, the government being bad. It's about being the so-called moral police of the world and being that I'm better than everybody else. So give me all the arms, give me all the armaments, give me all of this. I can do what I want. Those days are gone. No one in politics is going to be a Virgin Mary. I'm sorry. In that level. You know what I'm saying? So this is foreign affairs. This is world attempts. When you are a superpower, you're going to lie, you're going to cheat, you're going to steal. I don't care if you are United States, if you're Alexander the Great, if you're Cyrus the Great, if you're David, if you're Solomon, if you're Peter. It doesn't matter. You are when the initial person goes, you are going to do that. So it's absurd. Now, again, what is Israel is facing for the first time, and I think that's the massive backlash that people are saying, okay, wait a minute, I'm turning off my phone and I'm seeing he's known as the Joseph Mengele of the prison system in Israel. I think it's Dr. Goldstein, right? So that news is no longer captured. It's everywhere. So I think the Israelis and its supporters are faced with something that they knew it existed, but they pretend they didn't. That is the problem now. No one in this class or anywhere that I know says Iran is a Vestal Virgin about to be sacrificed. No one says they're moral. No one ever says that. But what they're saying is they came to the negotiating table, you betrayed them. They came to help us out, you betrayed them. And what they're saying is we betrayed them because of our relationship with the Israelis. That is no longer in Europe. That is no longer in the global south. That is what's happening here in the United States. When you have these young people saying, why are we dying for that? That's the issue. But for me, it's not going to, the time to say, oh, the Iranians are bad, we are good. It's gone because of this. So now everybody has to sit down and be realistic and realize math is math, you all. We cannot, okay, win this war economically and military. And here's something else. The Iranians and the Israelis have always worked behind the scene, always under the table, always. It was really from 2014 or so that Netanyahu challenged that, about 2013 or so. People need to realize when the Iran-Iraq war started, the Israelis were giving to both sides. But the country that was giving, there was one Iranian, Jewish Iranian that lived in Israel, gave carte blanche. The Iranians worked with the Israeli lots of time. You are in this mess largely because of Netanyahu.
Oh, yes.
Israel should not be in this
100%.
mess because of Netanyahu. He lifted the veil. He created a problem. He thought he had carte blanche. So it's not just Netanyahu, it's also his supporters. You should not have been here. Israel was the carte blanche of the region. It's no longer the case. But now, because of Netanyahu, because of Ben-Gvir, because of his supporters like this and his arrogance, you have now an Israel. Now, again, you could shift all of that. The question becomes, will people forgive Israel? I mean, I don't know. I'm not a historian. I don't see it that way. But I think the first thing to do, if I was at the Knesset, I'm sure tomorrow, I will look at these people who are in charge and say, move it. Because the intelligence community, most of the Mossad, the military, was against going this war. They were not thrilled for this war at all. So the Israelis are paying for Netanyahu's, for the Ben-Gvirs, for those settlers that are, the sons of light on the left side. That the whole society is paying for it. It's no different than when the Iranian people were paying for some of what the governments did. But now the question is, now what? Now what are we going to do? Because at the end of the day, the war between Iran and Israel will happen one way or another until there's a clear victor or until someone says, Netanyahu is out, Ben-Gvir is out, all of you are out. We have a whole new leadership. Let's sit down, let's talk, let's do something. That you may have a chance. The past will not be forgiven what they did. What Israel has done is not going to be forgiven. But at least you could sit down and say, loud, and we just sit down and get this war over with. So yes, we are in the midst of this because of Netanyahu and his supporters. That's the reality. He's the one that was pushed. He's the one that pushed all of this mess. They have to pay for that. I'm sorry, Karen. And then we have to go to domestic. Karen? Well, no, we don't have to, but I'm saying.
No, I'm here. I'm here.
I
just wanted to go back really quickly to acknowledge Vicky's initial comment and question that started all of this, which is why are we not, as a world community, able to carry some heft and influence this? And I think it's an important conversation just to have in the back of our minds because media availability of information, the fact that we're doing this, the fact that on Substacks we've got people from all over the world, we have I'm 66. For the first time in my lifetime, our connection to each other is really powerful. I mean, really powerful. But that kind of a change is titanic cultural change. And everything that we do now could potentially get us to that, but it's going to take a long time.
Yeah.
And our government, the United States, is a perfect example of every waging war against that. The decimation of education, the control over media, all of that, the kicking, like the nationalism and the kicking out of anyone who, and people who were born here, anyone who is not white, honestly, is intended to prevent us from maintaining that level of knowledge, information, and connection to the world, so that titanic change cannot be made. Oh, there's a whole bunch of people out there asking the same question, saying, why can we not as a world like demand peace and all of these things? And it is so pie in the sky, and it is so not pie in the sky, because if we're committed to that cultural change, it's not going to be my lifetime.
No, I think you have an excellent point, but I mean, Enid has an excellent point as well. Look, I think people who, and we always discuss in our class, and even, we always talk about it, and we agree on one thing. The problem is that the people who always push for war are the ones who never do the fighting nor the dying. They're just going kuching, kuching in the background.
Yeah.
So sometimes I think we have been saying in this class for like years now, there's a shift towards an Asiatic-led global order, particularly in the Middle East. We've been saying that for 4 or 5 years in this class now. That's going to go from the Arab-led, American, Israeli-led to Asiatic, Islamic-led order. And, it's just a shift. The pendulum of power is shifting. And when you have that, there's going to be chaos. There's going to be bloodbath. But even with all these negative things, I think, you see a world in which humanity, as negative as it is, because we're not honky-dory here. We're like telling you the way it is, that it is shifting. There is both sides. So everyone in a war, there's no such thing as when you kill, there's guilt on both sides. But right now, the problem becomes for United States is that I think no matter what happens, there's going to be more killing. The United States is going to hit, and the Iranians will hit back at the end of the day. But there is a limit on how far we can go. But I think the biggest problem, the biggest loser, for the lack of a better term, was Israel. And it's not because just their reputation is damaged permanently worldwide, this is coming out. It's because they have to decide what happens internally. They have a lot of soul searching to do, and it's not easy. If you have someone like her, she says, we all know it's Netanyahu's fault, but Netanyahu and his supporters have supporters in Israel, like what Audrey said. They have supporters who believe this is okay. It is very difficult times ahead. And if I were the Israelis, I would say, bro, I don't want to deal with this crap. Here's a piece of paper. I'm out of this hellhole. Of course, where is it going to go? Let me turn internally. And it's the same with the United States. Right now, this Saturday is 250th year of our Constitution. Now, there is one good news, right? The Supreme Court just came in. Depending on which side you're on, he turned down Donald Trump's birth citizenship. So he couldn't overthrow it. 6-3. I don't know who were the 3 judges who voted for it. So domestically, this is massively important. So for President of the United States, this was a major loss. 6-3.
Alito, Thomas, and Gorsuch.
Oh, right. Thomas, I would guess. I mean, of all the people, Thomas. But whatever. Alito, Thomas,
Alito, and Gorsuch.
Yeah, 6-3. That's that's massive. That's massively important. Yeah,
they voted to end birthright. Right.
Right. Those 3 ended, but the 6-3 was massively important because of the timing. Yes. We are seeing a massive, massive problem in this country at the moment. So we're going to go deal with it domestically. Yes, economically. By the way, that's one of the reasons the president needs to make a deal, because the election is 3 months away. Right? No, wait a minute. August,
Good morning.
July, September, October. No, July, August, September, 4 months away. So what you have now is that the president realizes there's an election in 4 months. So he has to make some kind of a deal for the economy to get better. But this was a massive, massive, victory for those who wanted to keep it. But that's not the first loss. He also had a couple other losses last week, and he had a couple other wins, correct? I'm going to throw it back into class. Ralph, nothing.
I'm listening.
Great, Ralph. I know you're listening, but I meant to make a comment. Nothing. Nothing from the posse from Aventura? Nothing? The Aventura group? You have like 10 of you in there.
They're drinking.
They're going down. Say it again.
The gas prices are going down, so that might be good for Mr. Trump.
Well, the gas price is going down because for crying out loud, let me tell you, I paid $3.35 just as you go to 163rd Street. That was pretty good. I filled that baby out. That was pretty cheap, $3.35. $3.35
down a little bit.
Well, it's better than
The reason the
$4.35.
oil prices are so low is because the largest oil purchaser from the Gulf states, which is China, has dropped its purchasing numbers, even though the Strait of Hormuz opened again. China's number of purchases of oil has dropped back to its 2016 numbers. So you can just imagine, on average, each year your oil purchases go up, but China has dropped its purchases to 2016. And when your largest oil purchaser doesn't buy as much as you thought, your supply is more than your demand. Therefore, your oil prices are going to be a little bit cheaper.
Right. But can I tell you, Roger, what do you think China did that? I'm just curious to get your opinion. What do you think China did that? Because of their economy, or is there something on the side?
They have their own 1 billion plus oil stockpile.
Yep.
And
so did the president ask China? Can you unplug it a little? You think President Trump went to China and said, look, you have your oil reserves. Can you lend me out a hand out here?
Well, not only that, they're also, I think, getting some of their own oil from Russia, which is undercutting the Gulf states and keeping it. I don't know. There's several things happening, but the fact that China is not buying oil at the moment is hurting the Saudi economy, is hurting OPEC nations. And I don't know if that's deliberate or not.
It'd be interesting. Maybe in the case of Saudi Arabia, I can't help but wonder it's slightly deliberate, I think partially, but then again, I could also be wrong. I'm going to throw it back on domestic, on the class. I don't know what happened to Vicky. I don't know what happened to Enid, where they go. Any comment if you have domestic. So let me put it back. I wanted people's response about the president and the voting. Any comments? What do you think about this thing? Hello?
New York's in big trouble. That's
right. Go ahead. I'm throwing it back on domestic. Okay, so you're not going. Let me go back to domestic. So what happened in New York? We're going to go back again. So New York, you had, ladies and gentlemen, because it's important, as Vicky said, Texas is liberal and all that. New York, you did have a situation in which the ultra left, I guess, socialist, whatever that means, won. And so New York is up in arms, right? Oh my God, they were up in arms. The socialist won, but it was interesting because of how he won. Ralph, you want to deal with that? Since, you just can't sit here and do this, I'm upset.
I'm not
Ralph, I get it, but could you throw a bone before I throw it back in the Aventura posse? I think they're boozing it up in Aventura. They're not even paying attention.
One thing everybody forgets is New York City and the boroughs is quite different from upstate New York. And what's happening in the city does not reflect upstate New York, because I went to school in upstate.
Right.
And the political thinking is a lot more right than the city.
But it reflects all change that's happening in London.
It's
Can you add on that? Can you add on that? Because I am curious about that. You're the third person who told me that. I am curious about that. The upstate New York versus the city. No, because they said the political system, but then Edith threw something in there. She said it's changing. Where'd she go? She went again. Okay.
No,
So
Mitra, I said that that's happening in Colorado. The same thing's happening in some major cities, and I think that we need to be alert and cautious and mindful and watchful of the socialistic democratic movement. But it's mostly in larger cities, and just like in New York, same thing in North Carolina. Asheville's very liberal. Raleigh, Durham is liberal. The rest of the state is conservative. We find that in big cities, we find the more liberal. Chicago, but the rest of Illinois is a little bit different. So we're tribal too. It just depends where you're living and what's going on at the time.
Right. She said it's interesting. She wrote she says in Europe we say Pia says it's in Europe we call it, wait a minute, where did he go? Right. In Scandinavia we call it social democracy, and it's far from communism or the far left. Well, yeah, we're a little bit different down here.
That's different.
Like, you know, we're a little bit different down here. We consider that for us, we consider it extremely left. But it would be interesting to see. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to pull you back a little. What happened 3 days ago that was very good for the president of the United States? Now, you all have been watching. Don't give me that. What did the president do? 3 days ago, what did the Supreme Court do? That was the news for the press. Nothing. Nothing. You know, you all are halfway married. You could lie. I don't know how you don't lie if you're married. Okay, let me put it this way. What did happen yesterday that was also no good for the president, but very good for the democracy? And does that mean the Supreme Court is sending
rulings on the executive orders and whether or not he could replace the Fed officers and other high-level appointments? They exempted the Fed, but they approved everything
else. And I don't think, So he won everything but one.
But there was one more thing regarding the mailing ballots. That's my point. They're mailing ballots. That was
right.
Massively important.
He lost that.
As long as they're postmarked by the dude in time.
The day of the election.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that was the thing. As long as when you do mail-in ballots, as long as it's mailed on the day of the whatever of the election, that was massively important for the president. So between this, that was a major loss for the president.
Oh, good.
Not just the president, but also for his supporters. And it was a major loss for the birthright citizenship. So what I'm asking you, and I'm going to throw it back into the audience because I am curious to see what everybody thinks. Is the Supreme Court saying something to the president? Is the Supreme Court saying something to the American people because all of this happened on the week that we are going to have the 250th anniversary of America's independence? Is the Supreme Court saying something to the president? I'm going to throw it back at the audience. Brian. Nothing. Nothing.
No kings.
It's only because today's the last day of their session. They had to get everything that they picked up on the docket and agreed to review had to be out by June 30th.
No.
I think it's just a coincidence that it's the 250th. But did you go to the fair on the mall? Because it was so crowded. Freedom 250.
No, I didn't go, but I have to tell you, but that doesn't change.
I'm being sarcastic.
Yeah, I get it. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, is the Supreme Court sending a message to the president regarding the birthright citizenship, regarding the mail-in ballot? Or is the Supreme Court saying something to the president? Because this was huge. These two things were huge. The mail-in ballot, because the Democrats always work late. No, nothing. He says no. He shook his head. Nothing.
The problem is that it's so confusing. It's confusing because it's not consistent with this Supreme Court. And so I'm having trouble determining whether it's what the hell their clear message is when it's so contradictory. Do you know what I mean? I want to think it's good.
Yes, I understand, but it doesn't work that way. The Supreme Court is not supposed to be political, and I think the Supreme right, and the Supreme Court made that clear because people were worried that, oh my God, Even my mom was, it was interesting because my mom was like, there's no way the Supreme Court would support this one. There's no way because they're independent. So, but for all those who fear, the court is the last step, in defense of democracy. The Supreme Court came up and said, you are a birthright citizenship, number one. Number two, as long as it's not, because a lot of those people come from Democrats, voters, a lot of them are African American. It's believed, although I don't see the statistics, I don't know, but that is their argument. And this was two major wins for those who say democracy was at stake. And it's important, ladies and gentlemen, to understand that, because this nation is facing massive economic, military problems, social problems, political problems. And let's face it, there's a new world order emerging. But I think people also tend to forget that the United States, and we repeat it in this class all the time, it's a very unique entity. It is perhaps the only, maybe one or two, which I don't recall at the moment, nation in the world that people, yes, I get Native American and I get the African, treatment of Africans as slaves. If you put that aside for a moment, voluntarily came. I understand that. And there is a sense of identity that, you come from Guatemala, you come from El Salvador, you come from Tijuana, I don't care, or Kathmandu, or, whatever. But at the end, once you become a citizen, you're an American citizen. I think Ronald Reagan said it best. I was watching some of his old videos, and he said, when you go to France, you're French. When you go to Britain, you're British. But even if you become a citizen, you're not considered. If you come to this country, we're the only ones that says we're still Americans. And I think that what separates this nation from any other nation. Yes, we are extremely tribal, and this is what's bringing this country down. We're no longer loyal to what the Constitution per se or to the center. We're too tribal. We're hyphenated. For over 15 years now, we've been saying, I'm Iranian. I'm not Azeri, but I'm just using as an example. I'm Iranian, Hispanic, Judaic, Christian, Buddhist, right? I'm no longer American. You have those, very dangerous, of course. But I think these two laws that were shut down send a message, certainly to the President of the United States, but to the international community and to the American public. We are going through very challenging, difficult times, but it doesn't change the fact that we still have a system that the forefathers wrote. I'm assuming forefathers, I don't see no chick's name up there, that the forefathers wrote to protect this nation. So whether you agree or whether you disagree with the outcome, I thought this was a very poignant and very celebratory moment, because it gives a sense of a warm blanket that says, you know what, the Supreme Court's still there to fight the law, to fight the institution and such. So comments? Nothing? Nothing.
I think the Supreme Court was very mixed. And I think the Supreme Court this year gave a lot of power to the executive branch, especially over the legislative branch.
That's true too.
And the legislative branch hasn't even been corralling its own power to be a voice in its own right. They're like a rubber stamp, but the Supreme Court gave Trump or the executive a huge rubber stamp. Lots of power.
Well, let me ask you something. Yes.
I think the court was not really gung ho on democracy. I think it was very political. Even Trump said that he was surprised at some of the outcome because he had appointed certain justices and expected them to vote in lockstep with him.
Well, that's the point. And that is the point. I didn't look, these were all political. But even in the most political times, there is a limit in which the Supreme Court says, because this was massively important. So there is no denying that sometimes the Supreme Court has become political. I don't think anybody could deny that. But I think, and there's no way you can deny what you have given the president. But at the same time, you can argue that these two were massively important as well. And so remember, the president is going to be president for 2 years. So for me, I like to see, let's say, who wins in 2028. I don't know who's going to win. I just do not know, right? It's too long. It's too soon to tell. And the person is from the opposite party. And let's say, a Democratic president, right? And then what will the Republican do then? Who are saying, who have no problem rubber standing the president now. And that's the problem. You know, when you make it so political, and remember, ladies and gentlemen, I think the winners in New York was important because it could, all, if I'm not mistaken, and somebody could fix me on that, and I'm sure they're correct, alter the balance in the House of Representatives in 2026. The recent, you know, if they win, I think it could alter the balance in 2026 because as of moment, the Republicans are only ahead by what? Three
votes.
3 votes, I think, right? By 3 votes.
Well, the Democrats are setting themselves up to possibly lose in the midterms because
yeah, I mean, you can't
socialist, communist, people are afraid of those terms and they're afraid of voting or having anybody represent them that might be extreme left, especially in this country.
Well, New York,
and I don't think, and the Democrats don't have their act together.
Well, that's nothing new, but with all due respect, I think, you know, no disrespect intended, but I think it depends also on the state. Yes, like Vicky said, yes, you have Texas, is, you know, excuse me.
Depends upon every.
It depends. Yeah, exactly. It depends where you are. But so I don't think anyone's called that socialist is going to run in Texas, you know?
Well, Tallarico.
They're trying to label Tallarico like that.
Yeah.
But, you know, I have to tell you, if he wins under the banner of socialists, I mean, that is
particular.
You all need to just move out of town. But look at Florida. Look, the governor, correct? It's going to be from the Republican Party. Who the hell are the Democrats? I mean, you know, no disrespect. Florida is going to remain most likely a Republican state in the terms of governor. I have to tell you, in the face of the Senate, you know, I mean, the face of the House, I don't know, but certainly the governor will be a Republican governor. I don't think that's going to change. I don't think that's going to change because I don't think the Democratic candidate is what's the word I'm looking for? Is a stronger challenge, but let's see what happens. Yes, Edith? Yeah, go ahead. You have to unmute. Did you unmute? Hold on. Yeah, you have to unmute. Yeah, it's on mute. Now I can hear you.
Okay, you can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. The presumptive Democratic nominee, Jolly, did a masterful job of picking a running mate, Gwen Graham, that has tremendous recognition in the state of Florida. And tremendous, even though she's a Democrat, her power base is in the Panhandle and North Florida.
That's
and
huge.
Her father still is probably one of the most popular people that ever lived in the state. So again, you can't fight $70 million for a campaign, but it may be more competitive than what you think.
No, you're right. No, I did not know that. That is massively important. But can I tell you, you have an excellent point. If the economy, it's the way it is, you never know.
Yes.
It's the economy. Right. I think come again, September. If your electricity is high, if your inflation is high, if you can't go on vacation, if your airplane tickets, you guys are traveling this summer. I don't even want to tell you the price of an airplane ticket. You all know if it's high as it is, people are going to look at their pockets. They're going to say, look, I went to Walmart and my coffee, my food went up. I can't shop at TJ Maxx. I can't shop at Ross. So I think that's important. The economy is the key, ladies and gentlemen. So for me, where is the economy? And that is, when it comes to foreign policy, the Iranians know that very well. They realize this is an election year. They realize that the American people are against this war. They realize the war is not popular around the world, and they realize their military economic power as well. So for me, I'm going to say, all of this, let's see where this country is on September, whatever, the first week, where's the economy? If the economy is as it's not moving up, I think the Democrats will have a better chance in most states. In most states. But I will tell you this, if the Democrats win the Florida governor, that's an earthquake.
If the Democrats win, will Trump allow the vote to go through? Will he challenge it?
How would he challenge? Well, he's going to challenge everything. I beg your pardon?
He'll get the Department of Justice to challenge and find and look for fraud.
Right. He could do that. You're right. He could. But you know, the election, he could do that. But I think there is a limit as well. I think the president made it very clear that he needs to win in order to, because whether you agree with the president or not, there's a perception of tremendous amounts of corruption within this administration. That is the perception out there. You know, whether it's, you know, the case in Albania, whether it is with the Saudis, whether it is with the deal in Kazakhstan. I mean, it's just the son-in-law, the daughter, you know, it'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see what will happen. He could challenge it, but I'm wondering if the Democrats get the House and the Senate back, how powerful would it be, that challenge? Can the Senate and the House stop, you know, Justice Department? Can they limit it? What can they do? You know, I'm not sure the president can challenge it, but I think we're to the point that, you know, he will not succeed in his endeavor. I don't think the president will be able to do that. I don't think the president will be able to say, I'm challenging it, it doesn't come. But again, if I did not know it was Graham, and I apologize for that, if it is Graham and if the Democrats win, it is an earthquake shape, I think, because the Republicans are spending money like there's no tomorrow. I mean, we're not talking about 100, you know, we're not talking about 5 million, 10 million. And I guarantee you, by the come October, it's got to be more than that. You're going to see.
No, the Republicans. The Democrats don't have 7 million.
Right. It's like 10
that's another thing that Supreme Court just voted on.
I didn't see it.
No caps on election donations.
No campaign finance anymore.
My God, that's nothing going to kill us like that. All right, but you know what? You got two good ones. You got the election. You got
the mail-in votes.
Yeah.
And you have the birthright.
Okay, look, you got two big ones. You can't have everything you want. You got two big ones. You know. So
I want a clean reflecting pool.
Can I tell you something? I don't even understand. What is that about? Did somebody dump something in there?
I am with you. I had no idea what's going on with that.
Idiots who wanted to make a change. And if anybody noticed, the person that they showed with the hand in the water was a kid.
Yeah. A kid? Yeah. A kid did all of that?
No.
Oh
no! The people who did the work did it.
Yeah.
They're called Greenwater.
That's the name of the company.
Let me just say, if I go to El Salvador, I'm taking you all with me. You know what I'm saying? I'm not having any mercy on none of you all. On none of you all. So, ladies and gentlemen, any questions or comments? Nadine, is that you?
How's France?
I'm in Miami. I go Thursday.
Oh, you're in Miami.
Yeah, I go Thursday. Let me tell you. No, I go Thursday, and I saw the app for the weather. But my God, where my mom is, it's like 102, but it's cooler than other places, like 110.
Yeah.
80 people. Yeah, that's right.
And can I? Oh, you brought friends. Let me tell you something. I'm going to tell you, and I wish Vika would adhere to this one. The French, I read it on the British newspaper before I forget. I couldn't stop laughing because the French government put out a comment because the Americans were complaining about not having air conditioning in France. So the British government said, you're the one to blame. You have the guts, basically, to tell us you're the biggest polluters in the world. We don't have air conditioning because of you all. So I was like, oh my God, that's all I need. That's all I need, right? You're an American, throw her in the, throw her in the Bastille. So it was fascinating. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Next week I will be in France. I'm going to drink it up like there's no tomorrow because my mother said it's hot. And remember, there's no air conditioning there. So it's going to be, ladies and gentlemen, it's also very hot here. So drink water, drink water, drink water.
We'll be in France next week.
Yeah, next week. So next week, any questions? Yeah. Okay. Any questions, ladies and gentlemen? Nada? See you all
Travel
next week.
safe.
Thank you, my darling. Take care.